Hello, this is Lawrence Lewis.
And this is Sister Christian.
Today is Monday, May 4th. This is the Producer's Happy Hour, a daily podcast with two producers on opposite coasts reaching out to our filmmaking and live event community to hear your stories about how the pandemic has affected you, your life, and your work.
Your stories let us know that we're not alone. It's important for us to keep sharing our experiences, ideas. It helps us. We're hoping that it helps you as well.
So email us, or better yet, record a 1 to 2 minute voice memo on your smartphone and send it to us at producershappyhour@gmail.com. Just follow the instructions on our website, producershappyhour.com.
And please share the show with family, friends, colleagues, work buddies, your basketball league, everybody. We want these stories to be heard. And we think that our community is large and specific as it is. The stories are human stories. They apply outwardly as well.
Yes, they do. Christian, today we're chatting with Rupert, Reynolds-MacLean, and Samantha Chitty from Biscuit, UK.
I can't wait to see how the Brits are doing and what their procedures are moving forward and what they're currently doing now.
Yeah, so it'll be a good chat.
Yes.
But here we are, Christian. What is this, like episode 38? Week 8?
Yeah. May the 4th be with you.
May the 4th be with you. How are you doing?
Weekend was great. Couple of vet visits slid in there. But I think we're doing well. And the cats are on the mend. Everyone seems to be doing well.
Good.
So that's good. How was your weekend?
It was lovely. Did a lot of walking with a friend in
the... It was beautiful, right?
Hills of Los Feliz. Yes. Exploring all the beautiful homes north of Los Feliz Boulevard. So that was really nice. And then played a lot of craps and blackjack on Zoom with some friends.
Oh, fun. Did you win anything?
Well, we don't play for money.
Well, anything could mean reputation, bragging rights.
Yes. We don't play for money. We're playing for souls.
Nice.
No, it's just for fun.
Good. I mean, it was beautiful. New York City spring weekend. I mean, just gorgeous. Enough to bring all the kids to the yard.
Yes, there were a lot of people out. I do have to say that.
Without masks.
A lot of people out. A handful without masks. I mean, people are pretty good here in Los Feliz, but not where you are.
No, I think that there are still people out there who assume that they're not going to get it or that they don't have, I don't know. But I just saw large groups of people in the late 20s, early 30s.
Yeah.
Walking around without masks on.
Yeah, it's quite a lot of young people walking around without masks. But I guess if you think about it, it's week 8.
Mm-hmm.
And they haven't been sick. It doesn't seem like anything's changing in their world. So
right. Maybe they know a few people who had mild cases, or maybe they had a mild case.
And got over it. Yeah.
Exactly.
So it's an unknown entity, this thing. It's not in front of your face. It's easy to think it's not real.
Right. The volume of information that we do not know has caused me to be very cautious.
Yeah.
And so I will keep doing me and let them keep doing them, I guess. I mean, my own hesitation about starting back to work or everything opening up is not going to prevent it from happening. I think that was my realization this morning.
Yeah.
And so nervous as I am, or the discussions that we've been having, everything, we still need to keep having them, but I think I need to resolve the fact that it's happening, whether I want it to or not. So I got to deal with it and make my voice heard.
Yeah, exactly. And that's all we can do right now. I mean, my friend left a bunch of Facebook production groups because there's so much fighting going on about reopening Hollywood, coming back to work. For people that, think I'll be fine, let's get back to work, to people that are maybe more aligned with us, thinking like, this might be a little bit too soon. The fighting on those boards have gotten crazy. So it's strange how dividing.
It's very dividing.
This has become. Yeah. I was listening to NPR this morning, Up First. They interviewed somebody who's been tracking cell phone data.
Yes.
Location-based data, right? Anonymous.
I'm fascinated by this, by the way.
Yeah. So it's just seeing where the phones are moving to.
Yeah, exactly.
And they've analyzed that all of a sudden, starting on Friday, movements are way up.
Way up.
So they can tell that social distancing, they have a rating system for it, and it plummeted since this weekend. So
yeah,
it's a little worrisome.
It is. And I think it goes back to when we were talking 2 weeks ago when the governor of Florida or Georgia or one of those. The talking about opening up has gotten people like talking about it. Now they're kind of used to the idea. So it's like, fuck it, let's just do it. Whether you're in a state that should or shouldn't, people are so used to the idea of opening up that they're just doing it and throwing precaution to the wind. So,
well, here in LA, this is my news story for today.
Yes, please.
Eric Garcetti, our mayor, is not planning to lift the stay-at-home orders on the 15th. He did say that before he does that, he would like to see 2 consecutive weeks of declining COVID deaths and hospitalizations before he starts to relax things in a major way. He did say, however, that there could be some small relaxations after the 15th of the safer at home orders for 2 weeks, and then maybe even more loosening of these restrictions the next 2 weeks after, so they can track it every 2 weeks. So it looks like that's going to start happening with the knowledge that 95% of the residents here in LA County are capable of contracting the virus without even having symptoms of it. It's just too risky. So they're going to take it slow and steady. So I checked the Film LA website, and everything's still shut down, no permits or anything. But they did say that Film LA was recently informed that LA County authorities may soon allow limited indoor television production to resume in unincorporated county territories. So that's not LA City, but it's LA County outside of LA City jurisdiction.
Wow.
And of course, it would be subject to workplace sanitation and social distancing protocols.
Who enforces that?
I don't know.
I know. And this is, again, the big topics that all over every message board that I'm on right now is like, that's fantastic, but is it an honor system? And then do you really want to turn your life, your parents' life, your kids' life, your spouse's life, like whatever, into the hands of the honor system? Yeah. I know. I don't want to be a Debbie Downer here. I also don't want to sound like I don't want to go back to work, because I do. I miss it so much. It's been my life for so long, and it is my career, and I think I'm good at it. And I miss it, and I would like to go back. And so I'm not saying any of that. I'm just saying that I don't want to hurt people.
I know. Because the responsibility inevitably is on us.
It's us. Even though there's a discussion, there's tons of discussions about a lot of other things, and we could do 100% great. We could 100% eradicate it and never have a problem. And then, spouse, gave it to them the night before, and they come in, and then it's just, you could do everything right. Too many factors
we can't control as producers, and it's scary.
Yeah.
It's scary. But I'd love to get back to work. But
I would love to too.
Unless there's some surefire way of making everybody safe, it's a confusing thing. The other thing that I read was this article that the Wharton School of Pennsylvania put together some modeling tests of reopening states right now, and if we start reopening states now, it'll result in 233,000 deaths from the virus. Obviously, modeling's been off. We know that. Their predictions, but God, even if that was close to being accurate, it's scary.
I absolutely think that is true, because again, we're nowhere close to understanding or any kind of cure, quote unquote, or vaccine. Yeah. We're just nowhere close to it. So I do think that if you decide to go out in public without a mask, or if you, decide to go back to work in a non-essential job, you should also be informed and understand the risk that you're taking.
Yes.
And that's where I don't think waivers are going to do it.
No. Hey, so Christian, Friday night we were on a little internet TV show.
I know. It was nuts. It was live streaming and everything.
A live stream interview about the show.
Yes. We were on Dispatches from the Social Distance, Scott Robinson's show from RFI Media Production. It was a lot of fun. Don't get me wrong. I do have to say I was a little bit nervous. That live.
Yeah.
I mean, I've definitely produced live show before,
I have too, but I've never been on the other end of the camera.
Yeah, where you're like being pointed at, and I'm like, oh, Scott was such a pro. It was a lot of fun. I got a little bit nervous.
You started like calling us on the Skype chat
Yeah. I mean, but
Before.
again, that wasn't, I know. And I was like, if I was a producer of this show, I'd be like, what is she doing? Did
What
she
the
not read
hell?
the instructions given to her? But it was Skype too. And Skype is a shit show.
Yes, it
Yeah.
is.
Unless you guys want to sponsor us, then I love Skype.
Then we love Skype, yes. Oh, well, that was fun. Check it out. We'll post a link to the show in our show notes, right? We were on day 49 on Friday, May 1st. Right?
Yes.
Let's get on with our interview with our friends at Biscuit UK.
Yes, please. But before we do, I would like to direct everybody to our Take Action page, where we have several links to things for you if you want to volunteer, if you want to donate, or if you just need help with your still. I know many people who don't have unemployment coming to them yet, or their stimulus $1,200. Like, there's just so much out there. Go to our Take Action page, donate, or see where you can help.
Yes. All right. Rupert Reynolds-MacLean started as managing director of Biscuit Filmworks UK in May of 2017 and has a wealth of experience in commercial production, branded content, and strategy. Prior to Biscuit, Rupert worked in the commercial industry in London for 10 years and has held various roles from production to sales and has launched a number of young directors into the UK market. Projects he's worked on have earned accolades from Cannes Lions to the Webbies to the British Arrows and on and on.
Sam cut her production teeth at Academy Films in London before going freelance 8 years ago. Since then, she has produced for various companies and directors, including Daniel Wolfe, Jeff Lowe, and Aaron Stoller, on a number of award-winning commercial campaigns. She produced a feature film, which premiered at the BFI Film Festival, and line produced a feature that won Best Achievement in Production at the British Independent Film Awards and premiered at the Venice Film Festival. 3 years ago, she took on the role of head of production at Biscuit Filmworks, where she currently works.
Let's take a listen.
Thank you both for joining us today, Sam and Rupert. We'd like to check in first and see how you are doing, how your family's doing, where you're located, just so everyone knows where you're at in the world.
I am in Portugal, actually. My mum lives here and she wasn't very well. So just before lockdown, we managed to get a flight out here. So my kids are super happy because we have a garden and my mum's obviously really happy to have us near her. Yeah, I mean, we're doing okay. All of us are healthy. My husband was actually ill for 3 weeks and he convinced himself he had it. And I sent him, you can get tests here actually a lot easier than in the UK. And he didn't have it. So it was a really bad case of man flu. So now he's better and we're all fine. We've actually had way worse weather than the UK. Everyone thinks that we're on holiday here, but actually we've had like storms and rain and as Rupert will tell you, we've been pretty busy with work. But yeah, my kids are also loving having us around. So we're trying to see the positives in that. Every day, Jack, our 3-year-old, asks us if we're going to the office. And when we say no, he just keeps telling us how much he loves us. So that's quite sweet. And then we're like, bye, we're going to our rooms to work now. But yeah, no, so we're all okay.
It's great. Rupert, how about you? Where are you right now? How are you doing?
I'm doing well. We are about an hour out of London, so really lucky and kind of count ourselves really lucky to not be in the city because the area that I live in, Hackney, is one of the three most, reading this afternoon, one of the three most worst affected areas in the country, which are all 3 boroughs of London are the worst and Hackney's up in the top 3. So which is also where our office is. So, you know, I'm lucky to be here. We are about 15 minutes drive from the coast. So it's not sort of it's a beautiful beach to walk on. It's not a beach that you go and sunbathe on. But yeah, it's nice. And we've got a garden that needs a lot of work. So it's good to have a project at the moment. And yeah, everyone's happy. I've got 2 kids that's 6 and another that's 3. So navigating that is a lot better with a big
having you around, right?
Yeah, but it's funny. Like I've still been working nonstop, if not even more. You know, there was. I know we're not sort of getting to that yet, but there was sort of like first 3 weeks was unraveling everything.
Right.
Yeah, we can't get into it because that was our next question. What was happening right up until the pandemic? What was your mindset? When did things start to, I'm sure it was a different timeline for you guys than it was here in the States. when did things start to become clear that this was a big problem?
We were potentially the busiest we'd ever been.
Right.
Both with jobs shooting, jobs in post, and the number of jobs that were waiting to shoot.
Yeah.
Most of those being commercials, and then there was a couple of music videos. Every one of them was obviously affected. The ones that were already in post, only one or two of those has aired, and the rest of them, the clients are kind of waiting to see when they feel the tone is right to release them. Yeah, we were shooting a lot. In the month leading up to the office closing, I was in Hungary, South Africa, and Czech Republic on projects. And then on top of that, we had another 5 or 6 going as well. We had 2 projects that were drastically affected. One that was supposed to shoot in Madrid, just out of Madrid, and that never shot. And we had to bring the director and the DP and a couple of other people out of Spain as it was closing. And that was that was 4 or 5 days before it was going to shoot. And then we had a project we were shooting in Prague that was a 9-day shoot that got pulled after 5 days. So we finished 2 of the 3 films that we were shooting, and at some point they were there.
And when you say that job was pulled or you guys stopped it, by any chance, do you remember what date that was?
The Saturday was the last day of the shoot. We were, I can't remember what the date was. We were rewriting, I could check for you. It was about 6 weeks ago. We were rewriting scripts on set to make it possible for us to shoot, because the shoot schedule had been done separately. Because we were going to shoot the last 3 days, we were going to shoot the ends of each film, because that was a studio. So we had to basically move things around. We had an amazing client,
film,
amazing agency, really, really great team on the whole thing. And it was just very well balanced on everybody trying to get the most made that they could, while nobody doing anything that was going to put anyone at risk.
So when that kind of shut down or altered or was cut short, was there any sort of, we're hearing stories all over that no insurance companies paying out any claims on anything, but was there anything over there with your insurance? Did they?
Well, that was already shooting, so they were in for full fees. We managed to save them, we saved the money anyway, just on being able to do some deals, but most of the money was already spent. So that was all done, and that wasn't, I don't even think there was an insurance end on that at all. The predominant insurance kind of discussions have been here, and I'm sure it's similar in the States, because some jobs we insure, some projects the client insures, some projects the agency insures. It depends whether it's a normal insurance or a wrap up. Those have all been complicated.
Right. You said the first 3 weeks after this, right? We're just kind of handling the what was going to be canceled or going into post on the things that you had just filmed. After that, it seems like, I know for us, board traffic started to pick up a little bit, because clients and brands want to get their message out. And so everybody here was trying to figure out, I'm sure there too, like, what could they do? So we've seen your pitch deck, which is amazing. Have you been doing any shooting out there? I mean, because I know I've spoken to
we actually shot something this week in London. We're doing a couple of projects at the moment. One of them started out as a live action job that came in, and we were pitching before things locked down. And we got an amazing client and agency partner on that. And the director on it has quite a strong VFX background. And it was, we worked closely with the agency to help bring that back into a project that they could sell in as a completely CGI and VFX project. So the shoot that we did this week was only had 4 people. Remote director, remote producer, one cast member, where we were doing an Alice scan on her. So basically scanning her. First 2 hours was literally just the most boring shoot in the world, scanning someone. And then there was another, but it was the novelty of actually shooting.
Yeah, I bet everyone was so happy just to be there.
I know.
Yeah. I didn't think it was possible to have a more boring shoot than a mocap shoot, but we managed to do it.
I'm sure everyone was
and then
to their computers.
we were sort of getting a range of movement and a range of kind of expressions and everything from her that will then be used over the next 12 weeks of making this film, with a lot of people making it weirdly in their bedrooms. And then the 3 people that did attend the shoot were all wearing personal protective equipment, and we had a bunch of measures. Like, obviously nothing is foolproof and nothing is going without a test. There isn't an exact way of doing it, but we've been working with a really good company here who specialize in not necessarily COVID-related things, but in kind of fairly odd health and safety issues. So everybody sent their temperature, and in the morning we could provide thermometers for them by the day before if they weren't able to use sort of their own facilities. Everybody was in protective equipment. Everybody adhered to social distancing. The actress drove herself to the shoot.
And we're also getting everyone to sign something to say that they don't have any symptoms of coronavirus. They haven't come into contact with anyone else who has in the last 14 days.
And having somebody sign that, was that by advice from your lawyers or from the insurance company, or whose interest is that kind of document?
From lawyers, as I'm sure it's the same in the States. You can't be insured for coronavirus. So it's basically, and in terms of people being able to claim that they caught coronavirus from your shoot, our lawyers have said it's almost impossible to prove that. It's like proving that you got food poisoning from a restaurant. But obviously you need to do everything you can to mitigate any risk and any chance of anyone catching anything. And so basically, I guess that form is another barrier to anyone being exactly. So it's just adding things to minimize the risk as much as possible. But in terms of in the UK, waivers don't, because I read this article from the Hollywood Reporter that was saying that they might in the US have a waiver where you like waiver your rights to claim, but that doesn't, you can't actually do that under UK law. So
oh really? Okay. I was going to ask you about that, if that was something you guys would be considering out there, but it seems like a scary prospect out here to have to sign away your rights to your health and safety.
The biggest thing we've been talking about, because we're writing the guidelines at the moment for the APA shoot guidelines, which is our version of AICP. So kind of what the guidelines are going to be moving forward. And there's a real... it's the moral question of what can we do versus what should we do.
Absolutely.
And that's the biggest thing, because the issue that we have here, which I think you might have too, is what we don't have from the government messaging is clarity.
Yeah, we're missing that just a little bit. Yeah.
And so there's a lot of confusion about who can work, who can't work, what is deemed as essential, what is deemed as not essential. We're very lucky in that we've had this government furloughing system where a lot of people that haven't been able to work have had government cover up until the end of June, whereas sounds like in the US there's people a lot more reliant on finding out whether they're going to get loans, and there's a lot of fear because of that.
And anxiety and...
Yeah, exactly. So while we have necessarily the same fear, it's different fear. And I think the immediate future for a lot of people is not looking as bad. But the government is I think what we're going to see over the next couple of weeks is the government getting more and more strong on trying to get people to go and work in whatever capacity they can.
Of course.
And how we can get some sort of way of, getting the economy back on track, but also I fear that if they don't, there's going to be a level of mass redundancies that's going to happen in the next month that nobody really wants.
Our current government advice under lockdown is to work from home if you can, but if you can't, then take all precautions to social distance. And if you can't do that, then wear PPE. So really, they're not...
You're on your own.
But essentially, we can shoot. It's just sort of...
Well, the film office aren't issuing any permits.
That's
Right.
what I wanted to ask.
Mhm.
Yeah, there's no permits, which means is there a standard amount of people or aspects of your shoot that is okay to be filming without a permit?
Well, if it's on private land,
Yeah,
right?
same here. Okay. And then is there any sort of government restrictions on how many people can be assembled in one place at one time?
No, not yet. It's just you need to maintain social distance wherever you can. Yeah.
Wow.
But nobody knows when or if they're going to make that announcement. So then it comes back to an insurance problem of if you've got a shoot happening in 2 weeks' time, how is that? And it's uninsurable if the government then says you can't have more than 15 people in one place when it's a more ambitious idea than that. So it's all part of that sort of murky communication with.
Right. How have your discussions with agency been along these lines? I mean, understanding that the type of, amount of production that we could provide before is different from what we can do now. And the cost may be different because of needing to span it over days, even though it's less, there's so many discussions to have. How are those talks going?
Good. I think there's two different conversations that are happening, and the more they merge together, the better. One of them is a conversation with heads of production and their producers about kind of realities of shooting. And then the other one is what I'm enjoying the most at the moment is the conversations that I'm having with ECDs and creative directors about what their clients want to try and say.
Right.
Probably how they want to say it. And trying to open up more doors on how we could achieve that.
Right.
So, I think that this is a point where collaboration is more important than ever. We, as production companies, all production companies around the world represent directors who have had to work with massive restrictions early on in their careers, if not throughout their whole careers. All good creatives have pushed the boundaries of the restrictions that they've got. They've kind of looked at a client, they've looked at a brief, said, what's the restrictions that I've got to deal with? How can we get as close as we can to pushing that a bit and then make something great? So I think that now that we're out of a phase where everybody who's said, we care about you, we're here.
We're here for you.
I'm good.
That one's done.
We're thinking of you and pulling this together.
And it was great. And it's really good that it happened.
Wonderful.
And we also probably saw the mass edit of all of them put together. And then, and then there was another phase a week and a half ago on UK TV, which was like 15 ads made on Zoom all came out.
Oh, yeah.
All the supermarkets and a few others. And now we're into a phase where I think there's, and this will sort of talk about phases, but we're into a phase where bigger and better ideas are starting to be thought about again.
Yeah.
Entertainment is starting to become important again. If we look in our social media streams, everybody is smashing their way through different series on whatever platform it is, whether it's Netflix or Amazon or whatever. People are there and open to be watching longer things. Don't necessarily want to be sold to. But brands can entertain people.
I think I don't know about your WhatsApp, but my WhatsApp is just full of jokes and memes and things to make people laugh, and it feels like that's what we need next. I think people need some light relief now, some laughs, but obviously that's really hard for brands and agencies to get that tone right, but
it's a big step.
Interesting, because we also, we work in music videos as well, and it's been, I was really surprised to see that music streaming is down. From talking to a few people at labels, it sounds like it's because people aren't commuting. So that knocks out a whole lot of when they would listen to music, and everything's kind of more switched over to screens as opposed to straight up listening. I think podcasts are up, which is good.
Yeah.
Good for us. Good for us. Keep listening.
But that's been some of those kind of interesting stats.
And so you're starting to see actual boards. Is there any? Because I do feel like there is going to be a big push to comedy when it's right and when it's done correctly, coming out of something like this. That's how we ended up with the sitcoms in the 80s, right? Was out of all the fear of nuclear war in the 70s and beyond. So are you seeing that in some scripts? Are you seeing some levity and some return to, like you said, entertainment?
Yeah, there's definitely...
Not quite yet, maybe. But
there's a little bit of it already signed off and being made, like a little bit of it. I think that... But there was a lot of conversations about it happening.
Okay. Yeah.
So that's positive, and I think that clients are really nervous about getting it wrong.
Mm-hmm.
Oh yeah,
because
everyone's watching.
Yeah.
So they're going to get held to the fire immediately.
Exactly.
And people are hypersensitive right now, aren't they? So yeah,
Hypersensitive, and I think that getting it wrong, I think, is a common feeling for everybody, not just brands and their messaging. Right. I mean, I know for me and Christian, we're almost paralyzed with fear about running a film shoot properly so we don't get it wrong and get people sick.
As the freelance people who would be in charge of it.
Yeah, and I think that there's people who feel like this. We've been calling it the Great Pause, thanks to somebody we stole
Katie
it from.
Byron.
Katie Byron, thanks to Katie Byron. We call it the Great Pause, and I think so many people feel this pressure of coming out of this renewed and refreshed and reinvented, and they don't want to get it wrong. So I feel like that's a recurring theme across the board.
Yeah.
But Sam, I want to ask you as head of production, has there been any discussion about how set safety is monitored? We know all the protocols.
We're getting lists from everybody.
Yeah, we've seen the list from every country and every production house about set safety and AICP and all that. So we know, we get it. But in our thinking, we're trying to figure out, is there a third-party person that should be on set to make sure the company's doing it correctly, or monitor, like you have an animal welfare monitor or something to that effect? I don't know. Is there any discussions about that?
Yeah, what Rupert touched on earlier, there's this company, First Option Safety, who provide health and safety officers, and you would normally only get them for if you had a shoot with airplanes or something really high risk. But I personally felt that we should have them on every shoot. And then the APA have actually just turned around. They've been spending the last few weeks developing their protocols, and they have actually said that they're going to recommend that you have one on every shoot. Because I think as a producer, you've got enough going on without having to monitor that. And that's a huge job, particularly as you're going to have all your departments now spread out potentially in remote locations. To monitor that is a big job, and I think it's this doing everything you can by the book. So if anyone questions what you've done, you really can say you've done everything right. But what you were saying about budgets is going to be interesting, because I'm sure you've worked out that it's definitely not going to help the budget. But then I guess you just factor all of that in when you're bidding, really, and this is why we're talking so much to agencies, for them to also factor it in, that it is going to be more expensive to shoot with the current restrictions that we have.
Right. And the amount of content that they're able to get from their dollar is going to change dramatically, maybe, or not. Either way, having those discussions before we get into the production is, I guess, wise. Because that is a fear, and that is, you're talking directly to my heart right there, because you're right, we're going to have a lot of responsibility, and people are going to need to be reassured that they're not going to be in danger, and what their risk is versus their desperation of needing to work versus the risk of getting sick is going to at some point outweigh each other.
And I think there's all sorts of levels to it, because the other thing that we've been talking about and that we're looking at is trying to find a supplier who can provide us with protective equipment, who isn't going to then but isn't one of the suppliers that our National Health Service is using. So potentially slowing down key workers from being able to get it. So, because that's been a big thing in the news here is, they're dealing with suppliers that can operate in hundreds of thousands or millions of units. We wouldn't be doing that, because we're never going to have the storage facilities to do it. Then there's other questions on how many times a day do you have to change that equipment. It looks like you probably have to change your equipment 2 or 3 times during the day. So you leave and you have whatever lunch looks like. Probably a box. Standing a couple of meters away from somebody. But whatever that looks like, if you go outside, if somebody goes out for a cigarette, whatever, if they come back, they probably need to change again. So those, just working restroom. Out all those logistics, exactly. Restroom, when we were shooting just before the lockdown, we had a lot of extra hand washing stations and hot water and soap and all of that kind of thing on set. We were in Prague, and Prague had run out of hand sanitizer. So
Oh, really?
the whole
Yeah.
The whole world did.
Yeah.
The whole
Basically.
state. Yeah. True.
we're just frantically trying to make it, like to basically sell it.
Yeah.
All of those sorts of things, and kind of how we factor in. It kind of comes back to trying to be a sustainable company and not screw anyone over at any point in the pipeline. So just making sure we've got some of that in place as well.
I mean, one positive, though, is one of the things that we've put on our protocols is that sign-offs need to happen like on time. You can't have last-minute changes because all of that stuff put people at risk.
Yes.
And so as from a production point of view,
That's my next.
and you know, you can't argue with that. No one is going to want to make a last-minute change to a shoot, which could affect people's health. So I think that's going to be a positive.
In time too, like once you have remote approvals, and then it's something, because I am in discussions with some folks about tabletop beauty going on and possibly filming in Norway, and turning a bottle slate. Those shoots, as we know, can be tedious, and almost discussing it like a post. You only have 2 rounds of revisions before you're going to cut into some dough. You know what I mean? Or time. Yeah. So. Yeah,
it's going to be an interesting way forward. We talk about it a lot on the show. We're kind of starting from scratch in a strange way. I mean, obviously, the formula is still there. You need camera, you need an actor, you need locations. But I think the way we put the shoots together, the way we handle client management, because the days of working on a frame forever, it's just going to be different. And so we're kind of rebuilding as we go.
Yeah.
Hopefully, the agencies and the brands will kind of partner with us and allow us to lead them in how we need to do this going forward.
Yeah, and I think it is a really good time for agencies and clients to really work closely with the companies they've got a strong partnership with and a lot of trust with. There's a lot of turmoil happening in a lot of agencies at the moment. They're very big companies with a lot of people who have had their spends, drop off a cliff, and they're trying to work out what's going on. And we need to support them. Going back to kind of the board's question before, I think there's 2 kinds of projects that are going around at the moment. One is something to go kind of now, and the other one is for after. And my worry about the things for after is, what does that look like? Is that 2 months from now, or is that 18 months from now? What? Because we're going to live with, all of us are going to live with a version of social distancing until there's a vaccine. There's no question
masks.
About that. Exactly. So, one of the big questions I've been getting, because our version of the Super Bowl is Christmas commercials here, because they will need to go into production now or soon. Is what should they be thinking about? And obviously we can't have groups. We can't have a bunch of background extras. We can't have everybody. Can we show a whole multi-generational family having a meal together?
Possibly not currently, right? Yeah. Because unless they all live together.
Exactly.
Well, or you shot them separately on green screen.
Yeah, but what is it? But then also, if you do that on green screen, do you want to show that at Christmas if it's not something that anybody's physically able to do? Like, there's so many of these questions.
Yeah. The cultural aspect is interesting. Like, even if we can fake a family together.
Why would you show that when no one will be able to do that themselves?
Because obviously we can shoot plates all day, but it's kind of
it still has to be. It has to be relevant to the current culture and the current time frame of what's happening.
Yeah, I mean, we talk about that now. Seeing stuff before with people touching in a commercial, we're like, why are they touching?
Yeah.
Why are they far apart? So
they're putting legals on some of our ads now that say shot before coronavirus or what have you, to cover themselves.
I'm taking that note down. I've not heard that yet.
So that they don't get complaints like, why are these people hugging in the suburb?
And
wow.
The tone thing, like I think the entertainment thing is important. We shot a big project and a rebrand for Fanta just before Christmas. And it's straight up kind of comedy entertainment. It's like it's YouTubers, and it's sort of doing extremely idiotic things, and shot
as they do.
Yeah, but also almost shot like a Nike commercial, and it playing on quite a lot of European TV. And it's been nice just getting messages from people saying it's so nice to see it on and different from the rest of what most brands are showing.
Sam, if I could, we like to ask if you have any advice for crew members, anything to get them through this time.
I mean, I just found just talking to people has been amazing. Like just everyone from like animal handlers to different crew members, and actually hearing what, you know, I read a thing that a wardrobe stylist had written, and she was like, you know, we've been struggling for space, being able to clean costumes properly, being given enough like time and stuff. And, you know, suddenly we have time to talk to people and find out different departments, what they actually need. And we're now in a position to rewrite the rule book. And I'm finding that really interesting because we just don't normally have time for that. You're just going. You don't stop and assess, is this actually the way we're working actually right? We just job to job. And I've found that really interesting. I mean, in terms of if you're not working, there seem to be lots of companies that are doing free training and resources. I mean, I don't know if there's a state's equivalent, but the APA in the UK are doing great stuff like that you can log into, some fun stuff for kids and some learning things and just some talks from creatives about past jobs. Any furloughed staff and people that aren't working are able to log into that. So that's been really good. And I've been trying to do that alongside stuff. Nice. And actually one of the talks that we had was an Ad Green. So Ad Green is like a non-profit organization in the UK that's run by this producer called Jo Coombs on the side of her day job. And it's to try and promote environmental issues in our industry. And that is something that was really interesting, actually, because obviously that was the big talking point and what we were all working towards improving. And that's been slightly sidelined. And sadly, a lot of the post-COVID-19 production protocols aren't very environmentally friendly. It like encourages single use of things that aren't recyclable, like masks and gloves that are going to need to be thrown away. You know, we were using catering, we were using like reusable cups, reusable cutlery, reusable plates. Now it's going to be single-use, pre-packaged meals. So Jo Coombs, that's like her thing, and she's obviously quite worried how it's going to impact that. But I think, you know, now's the time that we can take some time to research, and it's very early days, but hopefully we can find some sustainable options for some of those things. But on a more positive note, she was saying the two big things environmentally, the big carbon emissions things are travel, specifically flights, and then power, specifically generators. I mean, obviously right now there's no flying, but going forward, I definitely think that's going to be way less than it was. You're going to try and use local crew wherever you can. You know, agency and client numbers are going to be massively reduced. And also, you know, you're not going to have as big lighting setups because you can't have as big crews. So everything's going to be reduced. So actually, by the end of it, I think we're all feeling like hopefully it's not going to be a step backwards for the environmental side of things.
It'll balance.
In terms of advice, I think just taking this time to take stock, like personally and professionally. I think it's when do we ever get that? And I guess.
And Rupert, same question to you, but in thinking of the directors on your roster, your creative teams, what advice do you have for them during this time and as we're starting to kind of ease back into what the new working normal is going to look like?
A few of our directors are working on longer form projects that they've been trying to find time for, and that is definitely, it's a good time for that. It's not being caught up with a lot of other immediate things that happen when you're currently focusing on commercials, especially when commercials are the things that pay. Look, I think that the key thing at the moment, as far as kind of keeping momentum going with agencies, focusing on not being worried about what seems obvious that what you could make, like user-generated work, that kind of thing. I think trying to focus on what good ideas can be made and how to find a new way to make them. And that goes back to whatever restrictions you've had before. Most of us will come up through music videos, and normally you've got 10 grand in 2 weeks, you know, which is a shitty restriction no matter what, how anybody tries to skin it.
Yeah.
And we've got equally shitty restrictions right now. And I think that just trying to find a way to box clever around it is the right thing to be doing.
Thanks, guys, for
thank you guys
chatting with us today. We really appreciate it. It helps give us a view of what's happening in the other countries. Things feel so disparate, and so, as you said, there's no like kind of coordinated effort in
Leadership.
We're kind of leadership. We're making it up as we go. So it's great to check in with you guys and see what's happening over there. And hopefully we'll all be back on set someday soon.
So.
Yeah, exactly.
But before you go, and we'll ask you separately, what is one thing that you're looking forward to most once we are able to reconvene and kind of step back out and see each other? It could be a pint at your favorite pub, or
That's what I'm looking forward to.
dinner with mom.
Dive bar bathroom.
Yeah. Sam, what about you? What are you looking forward to most?
Yeah, I'm going to say just going to have a meal out with my husband. I'm so excited about that.
Oh,
Having a menu and being able to order and not cooking it myself. Yeah.
And not having to do the dishes after. And
Yeah.
I love that.
Rupert.
Yeah, I think, dinner with friends.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Dinner with friends.
Yeah.
So
They are adorable.
They are, and at least dampens some of, my well-discussed fear at this point of what conversations are being had with agency and client.
And it's good to hear. I think the most relieving thing for me was hearing how their version of AICP, it's the APA, they are going to start to recommend that there is some sort of third-party monitor on set.
I know.
To make sure the social distancing and all the regulations are being met. And I think that is really important. I don't know who that will be here. I think I heard a couple organizations might be handling that kind of thing. So hopefully that is something that is required, or at least mandated or highly suggested by the AICP here, because it is a big job.
Well, I would hope that, the way that California made it kind of, isn't it the law in California to have an animal monitor on set?
I don't believe it's the law. My understanding is that that's the only way you get the certificate. And if you don't have a certificate, networks will not run your ad because they will get in trouble with, PETA will come after them.
Right. And so that's how I feel that maybe the networks will step up and require
demand some sort of
that.
Yes.
And so then it just becomes standard practice that you work into your budget.
Yep, exactly. All right. Thanks to Rupert Reynolds-MacLean and to Samantha Chitty from Biscuit UK for joining us today. We appreciate the time and their insight into what's happening over there in the land of commercial production. We're going to be following suit pretty quickly here.
I hope so. They sound like they're doing it right. So,
yeah.
Lawrence, this show was edited and co-produced by Rob Bloomkey.
Artwork and logo design by Christopher Daniels.
And our unused but amazing music was composed by Kyle Puccia.
Yes. Thanks for listening. We're back tomorrow. Until then, stay safe, stay connected, stay active, and we still have to stay home, even though the national stay-at-home orders are now gone.
To that, wash your hands, don't touch your face, grab that phone right now and clean it.
Clean your phone.
Yeah, and then take a look at how you cleaned it and see how dirty it was, so keep that in mind. And if you do leave the house, please wear a mask.
Yes, and send us your emails or your voice recordings to producershappyhour@gmail.com.
Lawrence, how do people reach you directly?
You can get me at lawrencetLewis.com, or for voiceover work, voiceoflawrence.com. Christian, how do people get a hold of you?
SisterChristianProduces.com.
Yes. All right, guys.
Talk to you later.
Bye.